Let's do a quick run through what we looked at the last day, which was our previous class, lesson 7. So, how has IT transformed business? Do you think IT has changed business? It has. Right. So here is the question, how? The how, because we know it has, but how has it? Can you give me some examples as to how IT has changed business? Reduced working effort. So a way to say that, right, is increased efficiency. So that's a good way to say reduced working effort. So IT offers increased efficiency for workers. Let's look at some of the other comments. Payment methods. The whole world of internet payments, easier to work now. So what do we mean by easier to work now? We have more opportunities to work from home. We have mobility. We can work in lots of different places. You have from home working, makes communication easier. So all very good comments. And then we looked at some examples, and all these different examples, they all were technologies that fostered business change. So to foster something or to enable something means make something happen. BYOD, we all know what BYOD is. Bring your own device. So you bring your own device to work. But what is the downside? Security. It's much easier for the IT manager or the IT security manager to manage devices that the company owns because you can lock things down. When you have BYOD, the devices are more open because you can't sometimes see everything the user is doing. So that means they're visiting websites, they are installing apps, they're joining open Wi-Fi, all those things. So it's more of a challenge from an IT security perspective. So that's that last point down here, but there's lots of benefits. So it is a thing we see lots of. Mobile technology, we all know, look, same type of things. It allows, yeah, businesses to be mobile and to work from different locations for advice. Do you remember we looked at this? It's called IoT. Can you remember what that is? What's IoT? So Internet of Things. Well done. So IoT, that is enabled through mobile technologies because IoT is when you have devices and the devices are smart and the devices ping back, usually over a network of some description, to some sort of a centralized location. That could be a server, it could be another computer, it could be a cloud platform. And these mobile technologies, so the devices don't need to be fixed. They can be run on batteries as well. Another thing related to that is called edge computing. You remember what edge computing was? Related. Could anyone give me an example? Edge computing. Why is it called edge computing? And it's related to Internet of Things and mobile technology, BYOD. So edge computing is where the processing, so processing happens, it can process by itself. It happens on the edge of the network. So when you think of a computer network, you have devices on the middle. That's your central storage and processing. And then you have devices on the outside towards the edge of the network. Now, with edge computing, you could have something like a security camera with some sort of a built-in AI. Let's look at an example. So you would have a camera and it might have processing on it. It would have image detection. It would have all these other kind of AI things. It would know not to recognize a cat, just recognize a person. See, can we get any other examples? Yeah, there's a bunch of examples. These are your edge devices. So look, traffic lights, cameras, looks like some kind of a mobile device, all this stuff. And these are the devices that are on the edge of the network. And there's loads of them, and they ping back and eventually ends up in some sort of a centralized location, whether that's on premises or in cloud. Mobile, social media, I won't dwell on that. You're all very familiar with it. Clicks and bricks. So if you had to describe that to somebody, what is it? What's clicks and bricks? Clicks and bricks, a store and online. They sometimes call it clicks and mortar. Omni-channel. So omni-channel. So sell through a variety of channels. So here's your options. You have a store and let me see, what else? Store plus website. But you could also sell, and we had a couple of examples on a social media platform. We discussed which platforms had stores, and you could also sell through other sites, social media platforms, and then other websites. So things like Amazon and all that kind of stuff. So most of the goods on Amazon, they come from somebody else. Amazon is just the distribution. Do you understand distribution? So how the goods get from the warehouse distribution, the transportation. Ireland here, we have Amazon vans. We have these vans running around. It's almost like the post office. So they have their own distribution network. Do you guys have the vans in your country? No, we don't have them. I haven't seen them anyway. They have them in the UK. Has anyone seen a drone delivery? No. I know in Ireland there is a delivery on this company, and they apparently offer drone delivery. I don't know what. How does it work? There tends to be quite a lot of traffic. I'm not gonna load that page because it might crash my browser. There are examples of drone delivery. You can see them a lot. They're used in military operations. I think we're going to see more and more drones over the coming years. And I think they'll be used in distribution for businesses to drop things, especially in densely populated cities where you have lots of apartments. Drones operate a good way to do it. So maybe in years to come, we'll be talking about other channels as well for delivery networks. You all know, what kind of network do you have in your country? You have a 4G network? Let's see. Let's look at the coverage map. Five. You have 4G and 5G. Very good. So this is 5G in Ireland, where I am. Let's go in and have a look. Pretty much covered, and this is so these are three kind of main networks. Most of you, 4 and 5G in Malaysia. I know Bailey, you're in the UK, so I imagine you would have very strong 5G coverage. Is there 6G? I don't even know. 6G. 6G around 2030. But I know that 5G is pretty fast. I'm sure 6G is even faster. But all these things, so what does that mean for people? For, say, businesses? So when you have access to 5G and 4G, you don't need to be in the office anymore. You can work from anywhere. You can be in a playground. You can be on the move in your car. So it means you're fully mobile. You also don't need to be connected to this kind of stuff, whereas traditionally you did. Because remember where, if we go right back to one of our first lectures, remember this is where we've come from. And up until recently, we had these desktop PCs. These kind of blocky things that sit under a desk. So this was a traditional desktop computer. And then we went to laptops. And then we went mobile, fully mobile. These are what you semi-mobile. You can work with them on the move. And we have smartphones and we have all those kind of things. So there has been a real evolution in progress over time. So let me just see, I'm going to fly through these now. Increases in processing capacity. What was that famous law? I think somebody got it right the last day. Moore's law, very good. It just goes up. It is leveling off now. Chatbots. So what powers chatbots? You can actually have two types of chatbots. What powers a chatbot? And gives an example here. Yeah, AI and rule-based. So rule-based will be you feed in the answers and it helps you come to a decision, but it's quite dumb in a way in that it can't deviate from the script. AI-based, something more similar to ChatGPT or some sort of a thing embedded as a help function on a website. I know that Amazon has one. I was returning something recently and the chatbot was pretty good. In summary, then, and remember, IT originally was something on the side of the business. It was a support function. Now it's ingrained or it's part of the business. It's a core enabler of the overall business strategy. So super important. And IT has certainly enabled business change. Now we moved on to security. Then we're going to stay with security for a little bit and into today's lecture. We looked at all the different types of activities like social engineering, phishing, insider threats, where there's maybe an upset employee. They can all impact a business. You have malware and ransomware. Where I work, there was a big cyber attack. But having said that, it really changed the organization as well. So it basically took down most of the computers in the entire health service right in the middle of a pandemic. So malware tends to just break your computer. Ransomware is a little bit different in that it locks your computer out and then it asks you to make a payment to unlock it. But really, you don't have any guarantee, even after you make the payment, that the thing will be unlocked. So a lot of people don't pay them. So generally, how would a ransomware demand work? Ransom. So how would you pay a ransomware? What would the criminals ask for? Crypto. The criminals would collect, they would grab or steal our personal information. But when they would come to wanting payment, they would generally look at it in crypto, and that's because it's reasonably anonymous. So it's much harder to track a cryptocurrency, say, transaction than something like just a bank transaction, whereas there's a person's name and an address and all that. So, look, just very much part of the world we live in and something to be aware about when you're picking on files. Always good to have backups of your files. So, they talk about business continuity. What you're talking about are backups. What's a backup? What's a backup of something? It's like a copy. So what you're talking about is having some sort of a copy of your data so that if something happens, you've got somewhere something to revert to. So where's a good place to back stuff up, to back data up? So it's up in there. Where is it? Up in the cloud. Usually, a device would have device storage, and it will be, so let's device storage, and you would have physical, and that would be your hard drive, and then you would have cloud, something like that. So even if your physical hard drive gets corrupted, all your files are available to you because you can log into another computer, you go in through a browser, and then you can grab the information you need. And then password management, all the different ways. All the browsers have password. The browser I'm on at the minute is called Safari. So this has a built-in browser. If I go up here and I go into my settings, so see it's got a section here for my password, and then it lists. So I tend to use my browser or browsers because I use different browsers and all the. So what browsers do you guys use? Probably Chrome, is it? And there's different things. You can go and do a password checkup and all that kind of stuff. Use password management. We saw just examples of this, and you'd be surprised how many people use the same password across multiple sites, and you just keep using it. So this is my pass. You'd have this. This is my password. And then you might put a number and you go 2025. And then next year you'll go 2026. And you have all these variations on a password that are really easy to guess. So try not to do that. So just continuing then with the theme of internet, uh, look, security, and there are laws, and I am mentioning these to you. They're relevant to your assignment that you will be doing. So, as we all know, modern life relies very heavily on technology. So, laws exist to protect these systems, and many of the laws they apply to both companies and individuals. Could anyone give me an example of a law you might have heard of that is relating to computing? Any examples? Because you do hear about them. Any examples of any laws you've heard about? We'll certainly go through some anyway. No spamming, that would be a law. So this would be under Digital Communications and Online Conduct. Online Safety Act. There's copyright law, again, yes, it would fall under this kind of thing. Let's go through it and we can be more specific. So there's some areas. Why do we want to, I just want to click in here. So first one, cybercrime. And these are laws to discourage hacking, data theft, all that stuff. Then we might have laws that are around data protection and privacy. And then we would have digital communication laws that would govern online conduct as well. And then we have cybersecurity and critical infrastructure laws. So that they would be for network operators. In general, then, let's go in and look at some of these laws. Some of them are quite famous. So this Computer Misuse Act, because in your assignment, you'll be asked to give a couple of examples of laws that you've heard about. So the Computer Misuse Act, now you can also, this is relevant to the UK, which is where the curriculum that we're covering is based, but you can use laws from your own country as well. It would be totally relevant. So the Computer Misuse Act, it's a UK law designed to protect computer systems from abuse, and it makes it illegal to access or interfere with these systems without permission. So that would include hacking, spreading viruses, stealing information, all the sort of the usual stuff. And this act covers three main offences. Unauthorized access, which is where you log in to somebody else's account without permission. Unauthorized access with intent, which is where you're going in and you're logging into somebody else's account and you're trying to steal or change the data in the system. And then you would have unauthorized changes of data, and that could be something like malware, deleting files, disrupting services, that type of stuff. But the Act also applies to helping others commit crimes, such as sharing hacking tools. Convictions can result in fines or imprisonment. So Even testing somebody else's account or guessing passwords without permission will be illegal under the Act. And you want to avoid unintentional breaking of this law. So if you're going in attempting to bypass your school network or your school IT sort of safeguards or in your workplace, it's not good. And under this particular act, which is based in the UK, now your country no doubt will have something similar to this. It might be called something else based on where you are. But these will be quite well known. And some of these acts and laws, some of them are international. So this next one, the GDPR would apply to all the countries, I think, in the EU. And but talking about the UK, it has the Data Protection Act, and it works alongside GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulations. So what does that mean? What does it do? GDPR is very heavy on rights for individuals, and it's aimed primarily at businesses, and it helps individuals exercise their rights around their data. So you have all these things. You have the right to be informed. You have the right of access, which means you can get your data. You have the right of rectification, which means you can change information that a business holds on you if it's incorrect. You can ask for it to be deleted or erased. You don't have to agree to your data to be processed. Your data can be moved, it can be portable. You have these rights. You can object if you feel that you're subject to a decision. It could be something like a loan application has been made on you by some sort of an automated service or whatever, if you feel it's unfair. But ultimately, these laws, they control how businesses collect, store, use, and share personal information. And if you remember the last day, we had this thing, PII, personally identifiable information. And that's all the usual stuff, your names, your addresses, phone numbers, photos, emails, IP addresses, your records. So these are all the principles of GDPR. And ultimately, these laws give you control over your personal data, especially online. And they apply to any business within this region, within the EU, that collects data. And breaking these laws can lead to large fines and reputational damage. What does that term mean? What does reputational damage mean? Any guesses? Your image. So say GDPR fine. There is actually a fine list. Yeah. So these are all the controllers. So these are all the companies. And this is a live list and it just updates all the time. And you can see this is the amount they've been fined. Can I filter by this? Now, a lot of data protection is based in Ireland for the EU. So you can see these massive fines. Meta, 1.2 billion. Amazon, 746 million. All this. So look at the amounts of the fines. But these are big social media platforms, big business that process data as a core part of their business model. So you can get fined and you can suffer reputational damage. But the reality is those companies are so big, these fines are just part of their business model at this stage. Another law, you've got the Communications Act. So that governs all this stuff. And again, this law is UK specific, but you would have a similar type of act in your country. It is all regulated by Ofcom. So they're the communications regulator in the UK. So they manage all the networks. What do they do? So they have responsibility for, because all the networks run on licensing and they would manage all that. So each country would have their own communications regulator and they would manage all the 4G, the 5G, the communication services that we all depend on more and more. And then there tends to be laws around that. See them? Illegal communications. You would have a duty of care, competition and access. So a well-known part of this act is Section 127, which makes it illegal to send threatening or abusive messages online or via mobile networks. So you're actually in breach of, and this is frequently used in cases of online harassment or trolling. You know what trolling is? Trolling? Yeah, trolling. It's when people follow other people and say nasty things to them. It's like online bullying in a way. That would be, there would be breaches under this particular act. So remember, these are just examples of different acts that apply to computing, because in your assignment question, you're going to be asked to write maybe 150 words. Pick a couple of acts and write a couple of things about them. This one, so these are all just examples. The NIS 2 directive, this is around cyber security related things. It came out originally in 2016. It was updated in 23. So the goal is to strengthen cybersecurity across essential and digital services. It picks certain key industries in a country, NIS 2, the sectors that it applies for. Anything to do with energy, transport, banking, the financial markets, health, these type of things. These are new business areas that were added. The original, these are the critical sectors, very critical, and these ones circled in orange are the new sectors. So look, it just means it's a concerted efforts by international governments to try and tighten up on cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is absolutely huge now, and it will be even bigger and bigger because of AI. So as we make this technical progress, it's super important that we do it in a kind of a secure way. It has all these different obligations. It helps organizations manage risks. It gives them a way to report incidents. It helps ensure supply chains are secure. It introduces executive accountability. So that means that the senior leadership or the people who run the businesses are accountable. And it also introduces requirements for cloud providers. So where we store our data on Google, on Microsoft, these managed service providers, it's important that they do the right thing as well. And then just to finish this section, we have examples of other international laws. So now in your assignment, you guys can pick any of these. So if I go in and say I grab the last one here, and you pop it into your browser, and you'll get all the information you need. You can also do, and we'll look at this more in a sec, cybersecurity laws. But you could also specify a country or whatever. So you can go in and you can pick your own examples if you don't want to use the ones that I've provided you with. United States, so Computer Fraud Act. This one, COPA, is quite big. I'll let you go through these yourselves in your own time. Canada, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, and this global one's quite a famous one from Budapest. So any questions on that before I move on to the next section? Maybe a little bit boring, but you will be asked a question on this, and it does follow on from cybersecurity because we're talking about all this kind of stuff. And cybersecurity has come up repeatedly, and this concept of keeping our information safe. We're talking about our data and storing it, and it's all these things that keep our information safe. What these laws do is they require that the information is maintained, and it's maintained by businesses, it's maintained by everyone. Without these laws, businesses wouldn't be putting in the cybersecurity that is required, and what would happen over time is they would just get hacked to bits. So you have all these regulations in different countries, and you also have international laws, and these are all designed to help protect data and to keep us all safe from hacking. So in conclusion, Computing and network use are governed by a range of national and international laws. These are the examples. If you are asked to describe a law, which will happen in your assignment, focus on its main purpose, who it protects, and how it applies to businesses or individuals. So, for example, the Computer Misuse Act, which was the first one we looked at, aims to prevent unauthorized access and cybercrime by making activities like hacking and spreading malware illegal. So that's an easy way to say because it focuses on the purpose of the law and who it protects. Another example, the Data Protection Act ensures individuals have control over their personal data and that organizations process it lawfully, fairly, and securely. So you will be asked to describe a couple of laws in relation to computing, and hopefully these last few slides help you. So any questions on that before we move on? No questions? Pretty heavy going, but important nonetheless, and it does fit in with the cybersecurity theme that we've been looking at. Next thing I want to just talk to you a little bit about is about how to search online. And one of the requirements in your assignment is that you cite your sources. Do you know what that means? Cite sources. Have you done assignments before where you would put in the kind of the author and the date, and you might have like a hyperlink to the source or something? So you're all pretty familiar with it. Excellent. So in an academic context, but also in professional environments, you need to find reliable information to support your work. So this will be one of the things you can borrow and you can be guided my slides, the lecture slides, but if everyone just pulls them out and uses nothing but the slides, all your assignments are going to be the same. So to get into the higher grades with your assignment, you need to go and do some research online on your own, and you'll have to provide the sources, right, for your work. Referencing is important because it allows others to verify your information and build on it. An example, citing this website for UK employment statistic shows that your data comes from an official national source. So that's a UK government website, and you're talking about UK employment statistics. So that makes sense. So that will be a strong source for that type of information, and it's easy for people to see that. So in professional settings, or if you're in work, the transparency around sources, it can help you build trust. So people trust your information more because it's coming from a reputable source. And in academic work, like the work you're doing, listing websites is not enough. And you have to show where and how each source supports your answer. If you use the slide, you can just reference I'll go through that with you in the next class. You can just list them. I'll show you so the format you'll be using would be something like this, Harvard reference style. So if you make your point and you have a sentence, and then you would have kind of author, and then you would have year. See, this kind of thing. So something along those lines, but we'll cover that in due course. So how to do searches on the internet. Use search operators. You can put in, see, quotation marks around this, and then you will get exact phrases. What you're doing is you're burrowing down on the sources that you need. You can use the minus sign. So if you use this as a search term, that would remove all the ads from the term. Cite is really powerful. Let me show you that. So say you want to burrow into a website. Now you'll notice I'm specifying that I only want to see hits from the NHS site. So now you'll notice everything is in here. You can also do file type, PDF, or another file type. And now it's just showing me PDFs from this particular website. And I just want cyber. So now see the way I'm getting more and more. So this will all be PDFs that have come from this official website, and they have this term, very specific term in them. And what you do is you build up search strings. So cyber security. See how it's getting really, really specific. Now what I can do is I can say I'm actually going to change the website, and I'm going to go to something like, say, bbc.co.uk. Now it's just showing me these type of things, PDFs based on cybersecurity from the BBC. So this is a search string. Now there's loads of them. Look at how many hits we're getting. So what these search operators do, and these two in particular are quite powerful, and where you go in and actually search a site, because if you're on a reputable site, it really helps you. You can use academic search engines, things like Google Scholar. Have you seen Google Scholar? So there you go. Now they can be a little bit difficult to understand sometimes. So say we go cyber security. Now it will show me tons and tons. So anyone that is marked as a PDF, I can grab. So these would all be reputable sources of information. Cybersecurity threats. So let's go in. We'll just have a look at this one. And this is a paper. Now, some of them can be difficult to understand. So you might struggle because these would be written at quite a high level. But Google Scholar are very good for academic research. So essentially, it's a search engine for searching for research papers. You can use all these other sites and ways. What's really powerful when you go into let's go back here, we'll go, so now, so here's cybersecurity's do's and don'ts. Say I wanted to find something on this document. If I go Command Find or Control Find, you can see this pops up. Now I can type in, say, and it's taking me to the term. So I've gone into the site, I've narrowed down my search, and now I'm actually in the document, and I want to see in the document if I get any hits from my search term. So you'll be doing this when you're searching for keywords for your assignment, and this is what you do. Importantly, use reliable sources. So use government sites, use academic and research sites. These are all examples. Business and finance sort of sites. Again, these sites that are more reputable. What you don't want to rely on are what they call user-generated platforms. So don't use TikTok. Can any other user-generated platforms? Reddit would be a kind of a user-generated platform. So any other examples of user-gen platforms? Any example? All, yeah, all social media. Not good sources. So don't go in and just because you get a hit on something, evaluate, be aware of what they call fake news stuff on the internet that just is made up. It happens all the time. Use reputable sources. See that they're linked to some sort of a kind of a government agency. This link I came across. I just want to open this link and pop this over here. So there's a feature in Google. If you just watch this. So when you go in and you're on a phone and you actually can click on the link and it goes about this source and it gives you a background. So let's try that. So let's see if we cybersecurity BBC. So if you click in here, see it gives you the So that's by clicking on the three little dots, and it gives you an overview as to, is this a reliable source? So these would be all, right, let's put in a more generalized term. So some of these I've heard of, some of these I haven't heard of. And so about this advertiser. So this is a paid ad. So if I was to include information here, I'm sure this company is fine, but shortly down the page, I see some very good, the National Cybersecurity Center, these type of things. IBM is going to be a reputable source. So just be really mindful of the sources that you're including. And yeah, how you reference the sources generally, I think, is with this Harvard style. Now, I haven't heard anything different from the college, but Harvard style, is Wikipedia okay to use? I would say yes and no, Bailey. Go beyond Wikipedia. So, because remember, Wikipedia is user-generated content. Now, it tends to be pretty high standard. Go beyond that. Go into additional sources. Like generally, I tend to try and avoid user-generated platforms. You can use them for background information, but don't have them in just as your primary source. Cite all public sources used in your work, even when paraphrasing. So paraphrasing is when you say somebody else's words using your own words. And these would be examples. ONS 2023, because we're giving the kind of the author and the year. You can also have a references list in the back of your assignment if you want, or you can put in, I could turn that into a hyperlink. I can just add a hyperlink there and it would take me to the source. Here's another example. A 2024 NHS report states that AI is being trialed for diagnostics. And then you could have the hyperlink here. It's giving the source, it's giving the year, it's giving the link to the information. Good citation practice includes org, year, link. Keep a full list of references. When you quote something directly, like this, use inverted. Any ideas? Like, you guys are really just being asked to report on ideas and information that you've come across. You don't need to copy text directly. Try and summarize in your own words, cite where the idea came from. So go in, do your research, try and stick to reputable sources. I did a quick example of just potential websites that you guys might be able to use. So we can go through this list the next day. It's broken down into different sections: general news, academic, research portal, official government site. Whatever country you're in, there's going to be these type of websites linked to your own laws. Cybersecurity, both, I suppose, national, international, digital AI, data protection law, around finance. These would all be reasonably reputable sources. The BBC website is pretty good. It's bite size as well, and it's aimed at students. It would definitely be worth a look. You can go in. It does all different subjects. Computer applications and digital applications are certainly a part of it. Look, we will leave it there for today. We covered some laws and we're looking at, start thinking about the assignment. What you could do in the meantime is come up with a list, a little bit like this, of where you're going to get your information. And then you know to go in and to search there. And we can have a look at all this again the next day. So I'll stop sharing my screen. If you've got no queries, then all good. I will see you on Thursday. Thank you for joining me today. Have a great day and yeah, talk to you soon. See you all. Bye bye. Bye bye.